Hey folks, here we are down in my sanctum sanctorium, and this is my little corner of the basement back here. Actually, I have more than that, but we the rest of it for our purposes we won't be going into today. So this is behind me. You see most of my daily use knife stuff, and we'll go over some of the things that we use. My finishing area is right in here. This little sander, as you can see, it's been through the wars. There's no side, there's no platinum, there's no nothing on this. That was all deliberate. I use this thing solely for finish sanding, and I have one piece of sandpaper right here. You can may or may not be able to see it. It's so slick that it actually looks like glass. And if it ever breaks, I'll never be able to finish another knife, because I do so much finish sanding with that it's ridiculous. Let's see. It does run though. This is my buffing area, and I've also got a sander back here. I've got it taken apart right now. I've got to fix the flat belt portion of this. I have my buffing wheels, etc. here. Just stuff I've accumulated over the years. There's some 3M wheels. This is a hard compound that cuts very fast. This particular wheel has a buffing compound on it. It's actually called a cutting compound, and you put it on wet and you let it dry, and it's very aggressive, cuts very fast. I don't use it that often. And these are just older buffing wheels, ones that I use. There's some more new ones up there. I've got one big guy and one little guy. If you're going to use a buffer, here are some safety tips, because I think this is something we really need to focus on. I brought down a knife. This just happens to be one that I'm probably going to do some work on at some point. It's the Heli Les Stroud survival model. I like it a lot. When you're buffing, we'll use this for illustrations. When you're buffing, there's no kids running around down here screaming and yelling. There's no TV on. There's no dogs. There's nothing else. There's you, an extremely sharp knife in all probability, certainly a very pointy object, and a buffing wheel moving at high speed. If you don't pay attention to what you're doing, that's a recipe for disaster. So when you're buffing, you're not doing anything else. And if other things come up, turn that thing off, please. Lay the knife down and come back to it. Hopefully you'll put it in the sheath and put it away so the kids don't get it. When I'm buffing, I hold the knife in two hands, if I can, at least one hand, and I hold it very firmly. These things will grab a knife blade in a heartbeat. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. I've used them for years with a lot of safety. I did cut myself pretty good once early on, and that was all the lesson I needed. If you follow simple rules with these things, you won't get hurt with them. But when it's turned up, it's always going down and away from you. Now you might think, well, if I lose a knife, it's going to be bad because it's going to mess up my knife, but it's going to sling it off down in here somewhere. That's not always the case. I have seen, especially with the loose buffing wheels, and you'll notice that these are sewn, and I'm trying to get one. Well, we can just use this one here in frame. There's a series of rings where this thing has been sewn all the way around here. That's to keep this very tight and very hard. And the reason for that is they make loose muslin wheels where it's muslin or cotton like this, but there's no sewing, it's just loose. Now those wheels actually produce the best finish, but they're far and away the most dangerous. When they grab a knife, instead of slinging it down here, I have seen them bring it right around and come back this way. So again, I would just want to stress, when you're buffing, you're not doing anything else. I hold the knife firmly, I start here, and I buff always away. I buff from the center of the wheel or on the edge of the wheel, and I buff away. I will go from maybe this much of the knife here. I buff away. I don't take the something over here and try and start here and go this way. As soon as you do that, it's going to grab that blade and pull it under. So either the full blade straight down like that, where it's contacting both sides, or I'm going just part of it in that direction. Then I'll go to the opposite side, and if you just have one wheel, what you may have to do is get on the other side of the motor, but remember, keep it going down so that you can do this, or you can do this. You go out here, out here. You never start here and try to come in. If you do, if I try to start this here and come in, there's a good chance it will catch that edge, turn it in there, and of course you got problems. So from the center, I'm going to go out. From here, I'm going to go out. 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 Same thing here. Center and out. Center and out. For this end up in here, a lot of times I have the knife again very firmly here, like this, so I can get that portion of the knife. Now the other thing when you're buffing like that is I'm holding the blade at an angle, and I'll exaggerate like this, so that I'm buffing the bottom half. I don't want this to ever turn and get caught in that wheel. I'm always like this, so that I'm buffing, half of it, and this back edge is out away from the wheel. If you get it too flat or like this, you can see what will happen. It's going to grab the wheel and away it's going to go. So it's back here, good solid hold, do half, flip it over, again, get the other half so that you can get up in this area, and most of the blades you can get in this motion. Alright, let's come over here. And go ahead and go over there a minute. I'm going to just grab something here real quick. When I started out, obviously, I didn't go out and buy a bunch of tools. I've just kind of accumulated tools over the years. But when I first started messing with knives, to set up a buffer, what I did was I went to an old electrical shop, and not these particular ones, these actually came from a friend of mine, but I had some exactly the same. I bought just a couple old electrical motors. Washing machine, the old washing machine motors work great for a lot of reasons. I'll tell you why. And you can buy these arbors like this, and you find out the end of your shaft size on whichever particular motor you buy, and then this will have a hole in it with set screws, and you buy the appropriate arbor that goes with that shaft, and then obviously you can just screw these on. They also make now it's like a cone. If you watch some of Kylie's finishing videos, you'll see he's got a cone, and these wheels just spin on and off, and that's really neat too if you want to go to that expense. These things, that's marked $1.99, so already we're not in very big money there. And Home Depot or its equivalent if you're somewhere else in the world, and they're easy to find. Most any good hardware store will have these. I made some stands for it just out of these actually were speaker L brackets for some old stereo speakers, and you can put it on there. I've also used metal strapping to strap them down and just make them good and secure. Now, some things I like about these old motors is, one, they turn slower than those the hobby grinder type buffers. I use that one because it's what I've got and I'm used to it. But they're actually really too fast to kind of melt your compound, and you know, it puts too much heat, too much everything. These spin much slower, and these will actually do a better job. And I'm going to retire soon. I'm going to set my shop back up. I'll actually be putting these back up because when you're doing a lot of buffing and finishing, these guys really will outperform something like that. And if you think it's going to be a full-time hobby, then obviously you can get a dedicated ball door or one of the other buffers. One other tool that I've had for quite a while, I got this from Randy, one of my best friends, my best friend probably, and this is a little card. You can see this one's pretty wore out, but it still works fine. It's just several rows of teeth, and what you do with this, we're going to go back over here, is when these, even the slow running ones will get clogged up, you get bunches of compound, you get little bits of metal stuck in here. So what you do is this card will open all that up. And you can see it's nice and loose now. There's even some strings coming off there, and it kind of gives you a fresh start on that. For a buffing compound, I've got several different ones. I've got a little box over here that I keep compound in. Black is a very fat, I know that almost looks white, that's just because it's so old. That's actually a black compound. It cuts very fast. There's a green, and I've had this so long I can't really remember. I actually think this might be for brass, stainless. I'm sorry, I apologize. I just don't know. I usually try a steel and just try whatever compound. White, red. Here's some red that's very fast cutting. White is always the final polish, final finishing. And that chunk right there is probably close to 20 years old. And so once you get this, it'll last a long time. You can buy small sticks at the Home Depot, Ace Hardware, or the equivalent in whatever country you happen to be in. They're usually maybe about the size of this, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're perfectly fine. They'll be marked, and you'll find one specifically for stainless, specifically for brass, and so it really is easy to pick those up. And again, they're very cheap. They don't cost you much of anything. One other thing we have over here are these little 3M wheels, and they make these in any grit that you want to get. These are very aggressive ones. I actually use these. If you follow me back here, I've got several axes that I'm going to restore. There's an old autographed plum. I think this is a true temper. I can't really tell yet. I haven't got enough crud off of it. And just a little no-name head that I'm going to restore is kind of a boy's hatchet. I like messing with hatchets, so those are really rough, really very aggressive, and will, really remove rust at light speed. And they make them down to very fine grits. You can actually get a pretty good brush finish just with the 3M sanding pads, or the 3M. You can take one of the wheels even and do just about a fairly good job. Now, matter if I can get you to back up just a little bit, I'll just show you guys a few other little tips on something totally unrelated, but since we're here, let's go ahead and do it. Kydex sheaths. I think there's a lot of good videos on how to make it. I'll show you a couple things that I did. Like everybody, I've got a little toaster oven. You can buy these remote read thermometers. They're not that expensive. If you decide you're going to get into making Kydex sheaths, highly recommend one of these, because you can put it right on the actual material itself. The oven settings on most of these are basically a suggestion. Believe me, they're not very close. So you can use this to get the exact temperature of your Kydex, make sure the whole sheath is the same temperature, and that will really aid you in, because if you get it too hot, it'll start to bubble, it'll warp, it'll do all kinds of nasty stuff that you don't want. If it's too cold, it's never going to form correctly. I was really lucky when it came time to make my Kydex press, in that I had an old bench vise for wood. This is a wood vise, and what I did was take the I took the jaws that were on it, and these are the ends of some stair treads. I replaced some steps that we had and had these ends left over, and they were just about right. I ordered the commercial foam. I recommend you get that, and put it on here and here with two-face tape, and it works really good. One of the nice things about this is once I have everything in position, as soon as you turn this, it has a releasing screw on it, so it'll close right down, and I can tighten it down. I don't have to fool with it. It's done. Lock the threads back in position, and then I can open it again. Some tools that you just might find interesting. This is something that I got from a man named Ben Kelly. Ben Kelly at one time was a repairman for Case pocket knives. They decided at one time that they were going to have regional repair people, and he was one of them. And this is how I actually got interested in this many years ago. And this little V-notch that's cut in here, and this is ground down smooth, and that's made to remove pins from pocket knives and help put them in. This little tool this used to have another prong on this other side. I made this many years ago and it broke off, but it still works just fine. What you use it for is when you put a pocket knife together, you stick this in there and then you can tighten that down as much as you want so there's no play. You pull this out and it gives it just the right amount of movement so you don't have it over tight. You know, there's no useless side wear there that you would have if you just beat them down tight, and it would make them stick. And I learned that from Ben. You know, I just thought of something too. Hang on a minute, I'll bring this right back. While we're here, I'm going to look for Roman Legionnaire. I had told him one time he had a knife. These are old parts from a billion years ago, before any of you were probably born. But I told him that I thought I had a shield for one of his Boker knives, and these are just all parts. So I'll go back and review that video, but if I'm pretty sure that it was Boker you were looking for. I've got two different sizes, and I'll pop those out and send them to you when I get the chance. So that answers that question, Roman. And well, there's a little bit of everything in here. There's old handle scales. This is an old 1970 case stainless steel, and it needs a back spring. I've never gotten around to putting one in there yet. Some blades and material. There's some old springs and just all kinds of junk in here. You name it, it's probably sitting in there. And you'll notice there's some pieces on the top. There's an Allen wrench, a piece of a knife handle, a screw, and they ain't moving. Why is that? Because for many years I used this top to mix my epoxy, and it's absolutely covered in this stuff. So I think for finishing, again, I think your biggest ally is going to be patience. You want to really take your time, and don't be in a rush. You know, it's your knife. It's not going anywhere. You've got all kinds of time. So you're going to start out, get yourself a good array of sandpaper. Everything from about, no, you may get 180 if you think you need it, 150, up through about 3,000. Make sure it's emery paper, not sandpaper. You can make little hand tools to put your paper on. You can either hold it on there, or the other thing I've done is I will take two-faced tape and actually tape pieces of sandpaper to those little tools and use them. Make sure you completely remove scratches from one grit before you go to the next. And the way you check that is, let's say you just use 340 on it, and you're going to go to 520 or whatever the next grit is. You make a few runs with the 520, and if you see any deeper scratches in there, that's not from the 340, that's from the grit before. So that means you're going to go back to that 320, 340, and you've got more work to do there. Once you can move to that next grit and you don't see the really deeper scratches from before, then you're ready to move on to your next grit. When you get to about 340, you're going to find you have a real nice brush finish. At that point, you're going to stop sanding in both directions. You're going to sand in one direction only, in as straight a lines as you can. Again, I think that for a brush finish, 340 is a good one to stop at, because it is so easy to redo. It looks great, and it's fairly durable, so certainly easy to fix. And even if you got your knife in the field, in your bug out bag or your backpack, you got a couple pieces of 320 grit sandpaper, You come in at night, redo your knife, you can have it looking like new in 10 seconds. If you're going beyond that, once you get down to about 2,500 or so, at that point, obviously you want to be going in one direction only. Allow the sandpaper to wear out. It'll actually get smoother, make less deep indentations, which means that your finish is going to be even smoother. And then you can take a little bit of oil, mineral oil, 3-in-1 oil, water. I like water, it cleans up easier, using the wore out sandpaper, and you're really going to get a nice polish. Now, one thing that you're going to see is whenever you put your lubricant on, at least at first, it's going to clean that paper. So it may look like it's making even making it a little rougher, but very quickly it's going to wear that down, and you're going to use light pressure, and you can do a mirror polish without using any buffer at all. You get it to that point. If you do want to set up a buffer with something like this, then you shouldn't be on that buffing wheel more than a couple minutes. You get on the buffer, you get whatever haze there is on there, or anything like that, and then get off of it. What can happen is if you get, buffing's kind of like sharpening a knife. It's kind of therapeutic. You kind of enjoy it, and you always think, I can get it smoother, I can get it better. But what will happen, especially with stainless steels, if you over buff it, you'll get what's called orange peeling. And I'm not sure of the actual technical thing that happens. Cliff Stamp, if you watch this, please fill this portion in. What it looks like is that it pulls the metal, and almost pulls it down, and then you're at that point, no amount of buffing is going to fix that. You're going to have to go back to the sandpaper. I suspect it's eroding some portions faster than others because of the carbide mix. I doubt that it's actually pulling the metal, but Cliff, if you can, chime in there and tell us. So, final safety tip on the buffers: don't do anything else while you're buffing. Pay attention. I didn't do it, and I was wrong. Wear eye safety, wear glasses, wear anything like that. I have mixed feelings about wearing leather gloves or any kind of gloves for protection. I don't do it, and the reason I don't do it is because if a knife gets away from you on a buffing wheel, those gloves aren't going to do anything. It will go through them like they didn't exist. And I think that I don't have as good a touch or feel. I want that blade firmly locked in my hand with nothing in between it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or PM me. I'll be glad to go into more depth with this with anyone that needs it, and any other general questions that you have. So I hope this helps some of you. Any of you real knife makers, and again, as I said at the beginning, I'm not a professional at this. And if somebody that is like a Murray Carter, or someone of that level, chimes in and tells you something that contradicts anything I said, I'd listen to them. They've made thousands of blades. I've made, maybe 50, 60, 100. So you listen to them. They've had a lot more chances to screw stuff up. They've had a lot more chances to make things bad. And especially on any safety tips they've got, I would listen to them. That's pretty much what I've got. So you guys take it easy, and we'll talk to you next time.